Tēnā koutou and welcome to the 46th episode of the New Zealand Quilt Show. I'm your host Charlotte Scott, and in a moment I will introduce our guest for today, who is Maria Rohs, and she is the exhibition convener for the New Zealand National Quilt Symposium that's happening in Christchurch in October. And Maria has generously shared her time with us, and I learnt so much about putting on an exhibition of this size and quality, and I think you will too, so I hope you'll enjoy that. I left in my faux pas about pronouncing Maria's name, and I left it in because I think it's quite interesting. So Maria's last name is spelled R-O-H-S. So what's up with me before we get into my interview with Maria? I've been practicing on my Sweet 16, my new Sweet 16, which you would have heard about in the last episode, learning its little peculiarities and things that I need to take care with. It's been a pretty easy transition because being a sit-down mid-arm machine, it works on the same principle as my domestic machine, quilting on a domestic machine. I'm moving the quilt, and on my Sweet 16 I'm moving the quilt to quilt it as well. So it's been a lot of fun, to say the least. But it's been handy having it in my studio because not long after I set it up, or actually on the same day that I was setting it up, my trusty Bernina 440, I went to open the race cover that covers the bobbin area to give it a clean and an oil, like a good girl, and something went pop and things sprung out at me across the room, and I gasped and panicked and shut it all back up, and I took it into the shop. It was due a service anyway, so Sandy and the team at Northland Sewing Centre in Whangarei are brilliant, and my machine, thank you Nick the technician, it's come back and it's purring like a baby, and it's sewing perfectly. So I recommend, if you haven't had your machine serviced for a while, take it in, make use of the very talented sewing machine technicians we have in New Zealand, and you won't regret it. So that was a bit of a day out for me. I took my quilting BFF, and I went for a trip to Whangarei, and we visited the Northland Sewing Centre, and I visited my other favourite quilt shop in Whangarei, the Country Yard. They are my go-to for Oracle threads. Karen and her lovely team there, they look after me for my Oracle threads, which are my preferred threads. We're actually quite spoilt in Northland. In Whangarei we've also got another good little quilt shop too, called the Country Dawn, and then in Kaiwaka there's the Apple Basket, so we can't complain. We're spoilt for choice. It's great. And then today I was at my local gallery in Kawakawa, which is called King's Creative, for an art incubator meeting, and that was really interesting. It's about taking your art and developing it further so that you can have, so for instance, if you're a painter, you can do a painting, and then if you sell it, it's done. You've made it, you've sold it, and it's done and it's gone. Or you could paint that painting, you could make some prints from it, you could print it on greeting cards, you could perhaps explore putting it onto placemats or stationery or calendars, or so it's creating more income from that one piece of artwork to hopefully create a more sustainable income for artists, who can then use that income to then perhaps do more conceptual work or more experimental pieces or that sort of stuff. So that was really exciting to be a part of, to hear a really experienced artist talk about that. And tomorrow I've got a screen printing workshop at the same place, so it's all go around here. I'm busy and loving every minute of it. So there's a couple of exhibitions I want to tell you about, so that you can maybe write them down on your calendar or find out more about them. The Quilters Guild of South Australia have their biennial contemporary quilt exhibition called Dare to Differ coming up between the 1st and the 25th of September 2017, and that's happening at the Marion Cultural Centre, Gallery M. And that was thank you to Christine Beardsley who made me aware of that. And of course there's the Auckland Festival of Quilts coming up. That's between the 3rd and the 5th of November. The Festival of Quilts 2017. It's at the Auckland Netball Centre at Alison Ferguson Drive. And there'll be a huge amount of quilts and lots of merchants. The Dorothy Collard Challenge and the Aotearoa Quilters Challenges will be on display, and it's always a fabulous 3 days. So I recommend those exhibitions if you're looking for something to try and get to quilty related. So let's hear Maria talk about the exhibition that's coming up. It'll be in the Great Hall at the Arts Centre in Christchurch, and we'll hear all about the planning of an exhibition from go to woe, and the venues and the judges and the jurying process and the online entry system and finding venues and all the complimentary exhibitions. It's really a jam-packed episode. So without further ado, let's get into it, and I hope you have a quilty and creative day. So welcome to another episode of the New Zealand Quilt Show. I'm continuing with my series on the New Zealand National Symposium that's coming up in October 2017 down in Christchurch. And today I'm really excited to have Maria, I didn't ask you how to pronounce your surname. Is it Maria Rohs?
Yes,
Rohs.
In New Zealand we just say Ross.
We just say Ross. Is it from another, what's nationality is it?
My family comes from Austria.
Okay, and how would you pronounce it in Austria?
And, well, it ought to be Rohs.
Rohs?
But I think when my family came here, they decided pretty quickly to just say Ross because it was a lot simpler.
So Maria is the exhibition convener for the New Zealand National Quilt Symposium Christchurch. So she's been doing heaps of hard work lately, and I thought I would invite her on the show and get a bit of an insight into how the exhibition has worked, how it's all going, and what it's shaping up to look like. So welcome, Maria.
Thank you, Charlotte.
Right, well firstly, can we just dive into you for a little bit and find out a little bit about yourself, such as how you came to be involved in patchwork and quilting and all that good stuff?
Okay, well, I started doing a little bit of patchwork when my children were tiny. I found a little group that I could go along to. I had always enjoyed sewing and started just learning stuff by hand. We didn't take machines, anything like that. And I'm talking about the mid-1980s. And then by the time my younger one was 4.5, I started work and went back to work. So I couldn't go to that group anymore because it was in the morning. And about that time, Christchurch Quilters started up. And I thought, yes, that's a group I'd like to become a member of. So I was one of the early members of Christchurch Quilters. And from there, I've just carried on, I guess. I enjoy all types of quilts, but mainly machine work. I'm not really a hand quilter. Although having said that, because I have not got much time for quilting at the moment, surprise, surprise, I am, just when I've got a few minutes here and there to pick up some sewing, I am making a hand piece for the Orange Challenge for Aotearoa quilters.
Right, okay. And generally what's your style? You work with a machine, but are you traditional,
Yes.
modern, mix of anything, eclectic?
Sort of a mix, really. Yeah, I think I'm not really a particularly traditional quilter. But, I'm sort of heading towards the art quilts a little bit more now. although I've got a list of quilts that I need to make for various people. One of my daughters wants a star quilt, so I guess that's fairly traditional. And the other one would like one made with New Zealand native forest fabrics. So I'm not sure yet about that one, but yeah, I've got quite a list.
You've got a to-do list. Have you got a list of
definitely.
a sort of a bucket list of quilts that you really want to make for yourself?
Well, funnily enough, there's one quilt that I've had on my list since well before Palmerston North, and I think maybe I'm a bit scared to start it, but I'm on Huntsbury Hill in Christchurch, so I've got a great view over the city towards the mountains, and in the evenings you get this wonderful vista of lights, and I've been wanting to make a quilt based on the night view for ages. So it's going to involve a lot of sparkly threads and things, so I'm probably not quite so confident about using those. I need to practice more.
And hopefully after Symposium you might have a little bit of time to dive into that.
Maybe.
Maybe. So how did you come to be on the organising committee for the Christchurch Symposium?
Well, it started not that long after I finished work. I finished work nearly 5 years ago, and it's not that I was short of things to do, but I guess, well, Catherine MacDonald had already put herself forward to be convener, and I've known Catherine for many years. I've worked with her on Christchurch Quilters committees, and, you know, I knew she was good to work with. And, well, somebody had to volunteer, so I guess I was one of them.
And you put your hand up. Well done.
Thank you.
And you're working with a team on the exhibition sort of subcommittee. Can you tell us a few of those members so we can give them their due?
Sure. Linda Brocklehurst is one of the... I've actually only got three now. Linda Brocklehurst is a member of the Canterbury Patchwork and Quilting Guild, so that's the other big quilt group in Christchurch. Mm-hmm. She's a very experienced quilter. She teaches, and I think she was in charge of their last show, so very good person to have. Likewise, Nari Dawson, whose name might be familiar to you. She often wins prizes for her quilts. She's also retired. Well, she is retired, and she used to be an art teacher as well as other teacher of sewing art, all those things. And she's a very knowledgeable person, wonderful to have. And Kathy Kelly is the third person, who's also a member of the Guild, and she still works 3 days a week, but she's also put in lots of time helping as much as she can. I did have two other people on the committee, but they've both moved away from Christchurch, so never mind.
You downsized.
Just down to the four of us.
Yeah. So you say that, you got involved about 5 years ago.
No, it's not that long. No, it was perhaps, I don't know, 3 to 6 months before Palmerston North. Mm-hmm. And so probably about almost 4 years ago, really.
Yeah, okay. So, and that is when the organising of the exhibition started?
Yes, we did. We started as soon as I set up my subcommittee. One of the first things was to look at what the themes would be. Yeah. And I was aware that not everyone was happy with the large number of themes at Palmerston North. But I still really liked that idea just because it was different from what's been had before. Mm-hmm. So what we did, we brainstormed, got a big list together, and then after Palmerston North, I guess we saw that a lot of the themes or categories didn't have very many entries, So we just pared it right down to a few.
So the themes for this year's exhibition is creative construction, a story in textiles,
Yes.
cultural connections, celebrating our New Zealand cultural diversity, recycled, and then the open section. And then there's the challenge, postcard challenge as well.
Yes, correct.
So
Yes.
how did you come up with those particular themes?
Well, we decided, the main committee had already decided that we wanted creative construction to be our main theme. In fact, it is the name of the exhibition.
Mm-hmm.
And living in Christchurch, it was always going to be something construction related. You know, you just can't live here and not be surrounded by buildings going up or being repaired. The central city is gradually taking shape with lots of new buildings. Even in the last 6 months, there's been a huge change.
For our international listeners, can we just talk a little bit about why there is so much construction and repair in Christchurch at the moment?
Sure. Yes, sure. Well, February 2011, we had a massive earthquake, which, it's hard to put it into a few words, but it's changed Christchurch forever. There were so many people affected, particularly on the east and the south side of the city, south being all the hills. There was a massive fault which, well, I don't know if we really even, I suppose maybe the geologists knew it was there, but the general population didn't really. Likewise, in the central city, there was a very big effect there. And in the east of Christchurch, the main effect there was liquefaction, a word that, again, the general population didn't really know much about, but what it means is liquid coming up out of the ground and bubbling up, and it happened to a lot of people.
And turning the ground to just basically liquid mud.
Horrible mud, yes.
So your city is still recovering from that years later and will be for many years to come. And so the theme creative construction is very relevant to what the citizens of Christchurch are living with.
It is. Yes, it is. I'd have to say probably, look, I couldn't give you a percentage, but I imagine probably 80% of people have now had their houses either rebuilt or repaired. Mm-hmm. But obviously there's still that tail that hasn't yet. And the central city area was devastated, I have to say. And but you know, there's a lot happening there now, so it's positive. It's great.
Yeah, the face of Christchurch is changing forever. So, cultural connection, celebrating our New Zealand cultural diversity. That's making a quilt that expresses an aspect of New Zealand's cultural diversity and or identity. Consider what it means to be a New Zealander. So that theme has that been popular? How have the numbers of entries in each category been? Have they been as expected?
Well, actually, they've been very good. We're particularly happy with the entries in all the categories. The creative construction one was really, really popular. I think we had was over 50 entries, which is a lot for a challenge like that. Mm-hmm. The cultural connection, I think we had probably at least 30. Mm-hmm. The recycled, also good numbers, something like 30. And of course open. The postcards, I think we've ended up with about 30 or 40. Perhaps not, the postcards was one thing that we thought lots of people might enter who were not confident about entering a big quilt. So we we did think we might have got a couple of hundred there, but that didn't happen.
So the postcards are, they were sort of an open entry. Anything that was made
Yes.
would be exhibited.
Is accepted. That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
But still, there's a nice little collection there, so that's
Great.
fine.
So
The cultural connection one, I might just add, I was actually inspired for that particular topic by, now I'm ashamed to say I've forgotten her name, the woman from Quilter.
Luana Rubin?
Yes, Luana Rubin, that's it. Sorry, Luana, that I just momentarily forgot your name. When she spoke at Palmerston North, one of the things she said for the up-and-coming themes was flavour of a country. And that is what inspired me to suggest that topic, and yes, it was agreed to.
Well, I mean, people talk about New Zealand having a certain style, and our colour use is different. So, let's put that all together into a quilt that also expresses a aspect of our cultural diversity and identity, and let's see what we come up with. I'm really excited to see that category.
Yes, great.
So it's been a really busy couple of months for you. The entries were all due on June the 15th, and I can imagine that coming up to that deadline there were quite a few panicked emails from quilters who had glitches with their online entries or queries.
Well, a few.
Yeah, so how did it...
A few. Look, to be honest, most people did it really well. I don't think we had very many people who couldn't do it.
Great.
The ones who couldn't just posted them in with a CD or something like that. And Judy Van Leeuwen, our treasurer, she collects the mail, and she very kindly, for me, entered most of those herself and then just put them in the normal way. So that was very kind, saved me a job. There weren't very many who couldn't do it, and I'd have to say, I think out of all the people who entered, I think there were only 2 who did not have an email address. So what do you think of that?
Yeah, I think the face of New Zealand quilters and technology has been changing, because I can remember when it used to be only entry by photograph on CD and the mail. So people are obviously comfortable with it.
I think quilters already doing it for the last couple of years. Maybe that's helped too.
Yeah. So that's really great, because I think it streamlines the process for everyone, really.
Oh, it's probably the biggest challenge was the photos.
Right. Yes.
There were a lot of people who didn't read the size requirements for the photos and entered some that were way too big, and the system couldn't really. I mean, we could still receive them, but they couldn't be transferred onto the collecting point, I suppose you could say.
Right.
So we had to actually change some of those sizes ourselves, which that was a bit of a pain, but never mind.
But that's kind of you, because in other exhibitions, if people don't follow the instructions and don't submit the right size photographs, then they might be automatically excluded.
Oh, no, we wouldn't want to do that.
That'll put some people at ease. So then you had the jurying process, and you had your 3 judges. They all convened to whittle down the entries for you. So can you tell us who our 3 judges are this year, and a little bit about them and how they were chosen?
Yes, sure. We wanted, first of all, the 3 judges are Brenda Gale-Smith, Marianne Hargraves, and Philip Trustham. Now, we wanted, first of all, for our chief judge to be someone who was an experienced quilter, but not someone who intimately knows all the New Zealand quilters. Because New Zealand is a small country. Everyone knows everyone. It doesn't take long to start knowing all the quilting styles and things like that of the main quilters. So we really wanted somebody, who was just a little bit outside that. Obviously, Brenda is familiar with some work. I mean, I guess it's, inevitable.
So Brenda's
But,
Australian, so she's not too
yes.
she's not
Well,
too far away.
She was actually born in New Zealand.
She
and
was,
grew up,
yes.
but she's lived in Australia for a long time.
Yeah. So she's not too far away, but she's, close enough so that you can bring her over here fairly easily, but she is removed from that central New Zealand scene. She's also very professional in what she does.
She is, yes. And look, to be honest, we were very impressed with her as a judge and all the work she did, which some of perhaps we should have done in advance of the judging day, but to be honest, when you're doing it for the first time, you don't know exactly what you should be doing, and you don't really who is there to ask, you know? So this time, that's one thing that we, just to digress a little bit, one thing we are doing is that Christchurch is going to pass on everything possible to Auckland, and we're doing that because we've decided that our Aotearoa quilters will be the holder of that information. So it does get passed on each time to the next committee because that just hasn't really happened much up till now, and it's just ridiculous.
That's an interesting fact that a lot of New Zealand quilters may not actually know, that each symposium was kind of an independent that information was not held centrally, was not passed on. So that is going to change, which I think can only be a good thing.
Yes, and I hope that it will cut down on the work that each symposium has to do because, we've just started from scratch every time and there's just so much that we've had to do.
Yeah. So
and we've already passed on our website. They're already using whatever work they're doing already, they've already using our website, so that's great.
Yeah, it is excellent. So if we head back to the judges, your other two judges, Marianne Hargraves and Philip Tristram, can you tell us a little bit about those guys?
Yes. Well, Marianne, she has been teaching and exhibiting for over 25 years. She calls herself a stitcher, so she's more of an embroiderer really, although I think she has done some quilting. She worked on the Globe Theatre hangings and, she's done a lot of work with textile artists in the past and lives in Christchurch. So she was a good choice to have. And Philip Tristram, he is one of New Zealand's most recognised contemporary painters. And he's represented in all the major public and private collections within New Zealand. He does very big paintings, and again, he lives in Christchurch, so a great choice. We wanted someone who was not involved with textile art, but, would still understand. And he's also been a great choice. When we had the judging, he was in boots and all, certainly wasn't hanging back because of being a painter rather than a quilter.
So Philip Tristram, you can find more information about him at his website, which is trustram.co. Yeah.
Trustram.co.nz.
Spelt Trusttum.
That's right.
And you can see his paintings there and his list of exhibitions and things like that. So that's quite interesting to go and have a look at. So
just to mention too, he's also a very experienced judge. He's been judging painting exhibitions for over 20 years, I believe.
Yeah. So it was interesting that you have branched away from just textile artists. Do you think you get a more rounded view of an exhibition doing that?
Yes, we do. And we want things, he's somebody who can look at, obviously, photos initially and see what looks good. And look, my own club, Christchurch Quilters, we normally have 3 judges and one of whom is from another discipline as well.
Yeah.
And we've always found it works well.
Yeah. So it must have been quite an exhausting couple of days for you and them. So how did the jurying process work?
Well, we had all the photos assembled into a PowerPoint, and one of us, moved it on whenever the judges said they were ready looking at that one. They had already been sent the photos a week in advance, all three judges, so that they had time to look at them, and we were very pleased that they had done that. They had certainly looked at them in advance, and that sped up the process.
So, and it's completely anonymous. They have no idea who the quilters are for each photograph?
That's right. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right. Yep. And so the judges managed to pare down the entries from was there about 340 quilts down to 170?
Correct. Yes, correct.
Did you have an exact number that you wanted them to reach, or was it just you needed to cut it down by about half? Or
Well, no, we actually said to them, look, this is the space we've got, and, I guess there was the potential to get extra space if we had to, but obviously we'd rather not because it's pretty difficult. The venue side of it I couldn't talk about after if you like, but,
yes.
The cost and that sort of thing. And so we said, look, please, choose all the ones you think would be of a suitable standard for a national organisation, for a national exhibition, but obviously they did have to jury fairly hard.
Right. So I know you can't talk about individual entries, but do you have any feedback from the judges about entries in general, or the quilts in general, or how people entered, or things like that?
Not really at this stage.
Right.
No, I don't think I've got any particular feedback. But yeah, they were impressed certainly with the quilts.
Great. So there would have been some nervous quilters waiting for notification of acceptance or rejection.
And obviously with only half being picked, obviously there were a lot of disappointed quilters. But, it's not to say their work wasn't up to scratch at all. Obviously, with any judges, they're going to have subjective views on the quilts. What one judge thinks is wonderful, another judge might not even accept. So, that's just how it is with every big exhibition. Every judge is going to bring their own views to it. So,
was there general consensus from the judges on most of the quilts, or did you have did they have a hard argument about any particular entries or categories?
Look, on most they were definitely in unison. There would have been perhaps a few that they said, maybe one wanted it, another one didn't, but by and large, there was pretty good consensus.
That speaks to me of quite a cohesive sort of exhibition coming up.
Well, hopefully, yes.
And now the quilts have all arrived at your place, so that must have been incredibly exciting.
Yes, it was. We said this 15th of June was the date the entries had to be in. Mm-hmm. Actually, that was it was a bit amusing because that was the day before my birthday, and I said to the committee, well, that's the biggest un-birthday present I've ever had, because as they came in, I felt I needed to reply to each quilter to say that they'd arrived.
Yes.
Didn't leave a lot of time for birthday, but never mind, it wasn't a big birthday. But then we said, what was it, the 20... I've forgotten now what date it was we said they had to be in by, but whatever date, we gave a period of 3 days where we wanted them to arrive.
I think from the 26th, yeah.
Unfortunately, about 2 days after we announced the people who had successfully been chosen, the quilts started arriving. So
oh gosh,
forget the 3 days. They just kept coming and coming, but obviously the biggest number did come in those 3 days.
What did your local courier think?
Well, yeah, there was quite a lot. Most of them came by courier post, which is the New Zealand Post company. Yeah. So I actually rang in advance and
let them know,
said yes, and let them know, and also for the odd time that I was going to be out, I had a big plastic box at the door. Mm-hmm. But we were home most of the time. Yeah. We just, obviously for security, but I'm in a fairly secure area in a back section, so it wasn't. And I've got a good neighbour right beside too who was keeping an eye out.
Yeah, because I could imagine that it would be kind of nerve-wracking because those are people's. You've got 170 treasures to look after.
Yes. Well, that's right.
So what happens to the quilts? First, when they arrive at you, what happened to them, and now what happens to them for the next couple of months?
Okay. Well, the first thing we did was open them, check everything was all right. And we've laid them all out on beds. A few people said to us, they're going to be terribly creased all that time leading up to the exhibition. But no, we wanted to make sure they were in good order. And so they've been laid on 3 beds. So obviously no visitors for at least 3 months at my house. and because I've got a reasonably modern house, so, one person asked about dampness and that sort of thing, and I said, well, there's no problem there. And also I've got an alarm at my house, so no problem with...
they'll be well looked after, yeah. And you mentioned that they were all being professionally photographed.
Yes, we've done that already. We've had the photography session last Friday, so I think there was only 2 quilts that hadn't arrived in time. Right. So, but that's too bad here.
Yeah. So the photography session must have been a learning experience to see how a professional does it.
Yes. Yep. No, it was all. In fact, I think we're due to pick them up already, so that's pretty quick.
Yeah. Great.
We decided. Often you buy the CDs or after it's not a CD this time anyway, it's a pen drive, but you buy them after the symposium or at the symposium, and the photos people take are just often not very good, are they?
I think that's a comment that most people, most exhibitions and things make, is that people's photography can always be improved. So if you're going to buy a catalogue or a CD of the quilts, then I think professional photography, if you can afford to have it done, is a fantastic idea.
Yeah, well, the reason we've afforded it is because Catherine MacDonald has gone out and got advertising for the exhibition booklet, and that has paid for it.
Great.
So that's why and the exhibition booklet itself is going to have every quilt in it.
Wow.
A photo of every quilt.
Oh, that's fantastic.
It hasn't been done before, but, it makes it a nice booklet to actually keep.
Yeah, it does.
And lovely for the people who are the exhibitors.
Yeah. Great. So then next on the agenda is the actual judging and then the hanging of the exhibition. So when does the judging occur and how will that process work?
Right, the judging is on the 22nd and 23rd of August, so quite soon. Mm-hmm. We have tried to do everything in a timely manner so that we're not too rushed at the end. Mm-hmm. We will be transporting all the quilts to our judging venue. The judges will, of course, come again to that. Apparently, the thing overseas, according to Brenda Gale-Smith, is that mostly they judge on tables with just a few boards for hanging perhaps the smaller quilts, or when it gets down to the prizes of, when you're really trying to nail down the final ones, and especially the best in show. Mm-hmm. So we'll have a few boards there, but not so many. And the venue we've picked has actually got a lot of tables, so that's good.
Great. So do the judges have a list of criteria that they're scoring on? How does that work?
Oh, yes. Yes, for sure. Definitely.
And is that
Yes.
a list of criteria that the symposium committee have come up with, or the judges, Brenda's come up with?
Yes, no, we've made a list of criteria for them, and they will have that.
Right.
Yep.
And each category will be judged, and then overall from those winners comes the best in show, or is that a separate thing?
Well, look, we're happy with either. I think if I would imagine though that the best in show is going to be someone who's won a previous prize, because, well, it would be a bit odd, wouldn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
If they didn't.
That's usually how it works. Yeah.
Yes, I would have thought. Yeah.
So then on to the exhibition itself. Where is that main exhibition going to be held?
Well, that brings me to the subject of venues.
Yes.
We spent a lot of time earlier on looking for a central city venue that would be big enough, and there just is nothing because of so many big buildings in the city being destroyed, including the convention centre, which we used in 2003 when we had the last quilt symposium here. We have had to split our venues. The biggest number of quilts will be at the Great Hall in the Arts Centre, which we're pleased has been repaired. You know, parts of the Arts Centre have now been repaired, so that's really good. It's a beautiful building, as as anyone listening who knows it will appreciate. One of the original university buildings in the central city. And we've also got part of the RSA, which is a brand new building. We've also got some things at St Andrews and at the piano. The piano and St Andrews have not got the main exhibition. They are subsidiary exhibitions.
Yes, you have got some satellite exhibitions happening too.
We have, yes. Yeah.
So would people be able to see all of these exhibitions in one day if they put their mind to it?
They could, but it'll be quite a stretch. Not just because they're spread out, but because we actually have got a lot of exhibitions to see. You'd be lucky to see everything in a day. So for visitors coming to Christchurch, allow perhaps a day and a half, or maybe 2 half days. You'd get pretty tired just walking around exhibitions all day.
Yeah, you'd have to be very determined. So some of those satellite exhibitions, can you tell us about some of those?
Yes. Well, we're actually calling them complementary exhibitions.
Right,
so,
complementary exhibitions, that's a good word.
Yeah. Right, so early on we opened the process and asked, we just put it on our website that we were looking for people who wanted to have an exhibition at the same time. We had a large number of people applying. It was actually the main symposium committee that looked at those, and we whittled it down to a handful, which seems to have sort of grown a bit, I'd have to say. Okay, we've got, just running down the page in no particular order, we've got the Layers group, which is from Central Otago, small themed quilts. We've got Anne Jolly, as a lot of people will know, is in her at least mid-80s, has done a lot of teaching at previous symposia, and she says this will be her last one. So she's got an exhibition of small quilts. Helen Bevan, her exhibition is called Paint Modern. I think she's probably quite well known now for the quilts that look like knitting.
Where she uses paint to show stitch, really, yeah.
Yes, so she's having, that isn't necessarily her only only works, but she's having a small exhibition. Sonia Prakal, hers is called Painted Threads. Her quilts are actually going to be shown at the Transitional Cathedral, which is rather nice since the opening is there.
Yeah.
But they agreed to have somebody, and I showed him a selection of photos, and he immediately picked hers because he said those, she often does animals and fish and things like that, and he said, that's God's creatures, so
perfect.
that fits it quite nicely.
Yeah.
We've got an exhibition called Passion and Proportion, which made by people who've been in Nancy Crow New Zealand classes.
That'll be interesting.
We've got 8 Perspectives, another group from Auckland they do little themed group exhibitions. A Matter of Time, which is Brenda Gale Smith's own curated exhibition. She's obviously, those who've been to other symposia and other exhibitions of hers will have seen some wonderful exhibitions.
Yeah, she's a great curator.
Yes, excellent. We've also got one from South Australia, the South Australia Living Textiles, and this one is called Inner Journeys. The photos look absolutely fabulous too. There's a small exhibition by some Western Australian quilters, WA inspired they're called Strata and Salt.
It's great that you've got some international
Yes,
groups.
it is, yeah. We're pleased to be able to do that. So they were the main ones that we had picked, but as well as that, there will be Aotearoa quilters. They have the Orange Challenge. They also have the Fragile Challenge, which were the quilts which will appear on the calendar, which Aotearoa Quilters is putting out. So I hope lots of people are going to buy those calendars.
I've already ordered mine.
Because it's a great opportunity for raising a bit of money for Aotearoa Quilters. And might I say it was my idea for the calendar?
Oh, well done. I think it's a great idea.
There's also at St Andrews, along with those two, there's a silent auction of quilts which have been donated by, certainly some New Zealand quilters and possibly some from overseas tutors. I'm not sure about that, but those three will all be together. We also have at Knox Church, there's a small exhibition called By Hand, and the people who are putting that on, Sue Spiegel, well known to many, she is a member of that church, and she will have some items for sale which will support the rebuilding of that church. They have rebuilt it now already, but I think they still owe money, so that wouldn't be surprising. And some other friends of hers, also some quite well-known quilters, who are putting together quilts for exhibiting there, and their theme is by hand, the idea of going back to the slow quilting where, you just take your time, stop rushing around.
Yeah, enjoy the process.
Exactly, yes. Then there's also there's a small group called Blue Sky Group, who are a Christchurch group, and one of their members works at the Christchurch City Council, so she's got a little bit of space there. Oh, and the only other one that I know of at the shop called Bolt of Cloth at the Tannery, and I think for those who know Bolt of Cloth, they have a lot of modern quilts, a lot of modern quilt fabrics, and they also are known for their Marameko fabrics. Now they are one of our sponsors, and so they agreed to hang some quilts in their shop. So we're just going around shoulder tapping a few people to hang quilts there.
Wow.
So I think, there's quite a lot between going to all of those the four main venues, plus, the other, I did miss one other one, the refugee and migrant group. which has been going for quite a few years now under the helm of Kathleen Burford. It's been a wonderful group, and they have an exhibition every couple of years, so they will also have one in the South Library.
That's a huge list.
It is, yes. And we are going to have a shuttle going around the venues where people will be asked to put in a gold coin.
Yeah, to help pay for that, yeah.
Yes.
Wow, that is an amazing list, and I think that's really great for the general public as well, that they'll be spread around and there'll be opportunities to get the word out about textile art to people who maybe have never come across it before or are not aware of it.
Yes, we hope so.
Okay, well, if we move on to the prize list and our sponsors, I mean, the prize list this year is pretty amazing, and I'd like to say here a big public thank you to all the sponsors, because we wouldn't be able to have it without the sponsors. And I was going to read a list of the prizes and who sponsored it, but we are heading on for time, so I will say the Best in Show prize is $500 cash, and there's a $5,000 sewing machine sponsored by Benina, New Zealand. So has that been exciting to organise those prizes?
Oh, yes, it's really great. You know, sometimes in the past, prizes have been goods rather than cash. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that we did was that if you were going to be a merchant, part of the package of being a merchant was coming up with cash for the prizes, and that's been partly related to the size of the stand that you are having. So, you know, if you had a certain size stand, part of your payment would be a prize of a certain figure. Mm-hmm.
I think that recognises the professionalism of what we're trying to do, rather than giving, you know, goods in kind, actually offering a cash prize, which is probably more useful and
yes,
definitely indicates the professionalism of it.
Yes, sure.
Yeah, and thank you to Benina, who is your major sponsor, of course.
Yes, Benina, I mean, they just come up every time. For several symposia now, they've been the main sponsor, so, you know, they are wonderful, no doubt about that.
They are. So last symposia, I interviewed the Best in Show winner, Melanie Martin, and it was such a buzz to see her excitement. And so what I'm thinking is now, have you run through that in your head, what it'll be like for you after all your hard work to see this exhibition come together and to see the enjoyment on people's faces they view it and to see the excitement of the prize winners? Have you even contemplated what it's all going to be like to finally have it all happen?
Well, to be honest, a little bit, but there is still so much to do that, well, it's more likely I'm waking up in the night thinking, oh, I've got to do this and I've got to do that.
So you haven't allowed yourself to contemplate life without the exhibition. Yeah, because of course that all of a sudden that's going to happen for you. It's going to be, I'm done. What do I do now?
It's not long now, that's for sure.
Yeah.
It's not long.
Yeah.
But look, I'm sure everything is going to be absolutely fine, even though, you know, you can't help but worry in advance. But because of the fact that we've been doing things in a really timely fashion, not leaving stuff to the last minute.
Yeah.
You know, we've all got good subcommittees who are working well, so, you know, it'll happen.
You've taken care of the big jobs, and the little jobs will sort of just take care of themselves as they come along. Yeah, excellent. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me, Maria. I think I've learnt a whole lot, and I hope the listeners have too, and they get a new appreciation for the amount of work that goes into organising such a huge event like this.
Oh, thank you, Charlotte. It's great to have been able to allow people to hear about it.
Okay.
And we just hope lots of people will come.
I think there'll be no problem with that at all. You've been listening to the New Zealand Quilt Show. I'm your host, Charlotte Scott. Please visit my blog, theslightlymadquiltlady.blogspot.com, for show notes for this episode and any more information you might need. Email me, theslightlymadquiltlady@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you, so please don't be shy. And the music for this podcast is Crunk Night by Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.